state of Massachusetts is about to undergo a big change. With 29 days to go until he's sworn into office, Governor-elect Charlie Baker appears ready to hit the ground running. Since his victory over Democratic opponent Martha Coakley a little over a month ago, he's been meeting with transportation officials, energy officials, small business owners, school kids, teachers, legislative leaders, the current administration, and many others. It's all leading up to the big day. But first, Governor-elect Charlie Baker joins me here to talk more about his plans for the future. Welcome back to Greater Boston.
I thought
Charlie
we were
Baker.
going to talk about your plans.
Yeah,
for the
we are.
future.
We're going to get into that
okay,
too. So this seems to be the theme of the the last couple of weeks. What has this been like for you? The transition first of all, is it the way you imagined a transition being? I mean, right away you're on a schedule. It's like you are the governor, but you're not there yet. I mean, what's
no,
it
you're
like?
definitely not the governor yet. I mean, that's pretty clear. Although a lot of people think that you are.
Treat you like you are. Yeah.
I certainly have all kinds of new friends, which is sort of humorous and interesting.
Yeah. Have you met anybody who didn't vote for you?
No.
Yeah,
no
exactly.
one. Everybody.
See? I knew it.
I don't know how I only won by 40,000 votes since I got 98% of the vote. The really interesting thing about it is the speed with which you have to put a team in place. And I'm a big people are policy, people are program person, which means that the people you put in these positions really matters. And the people that they put in the positions under them really matter. And you have basically 60 days to create kind of the top level of an administration. And that just feels like an incredible frenzy. And I was at a Christmas party last night, and a bunch of people were there wearing Christmas red of one type or another. And I literally thought to myself, hey, Christmas is coming, which was immediately followed by, oh my God, inauguration is right after that, and we still have half the cabinet that we haven't put in place.
So, I mean, you won by 40,000 votes. It's a win is a win, but are you conscious? I mean, that's a great win. Are you conscious going around? Well, not everybody voted for you, even though they're going to say they did. I mean, does that factor into your thinking in terms of building, your team, a coalition government? And you met with Obama. That's impressive.
We said all along that we were going to be a bipartisan team and a bipartisan administration. If you look at our appointments to date, Jay Ash from Chelsea, city manager there, Democrat, Mary Lou Sutters. I don't know what Mary Lou's registered as, which is what makes her so special, but people really know and like and appreciate the work she's done in Health and Human Services over her career. Kristen Lepori, who's going to be the A&F secretary, I think she's a Republican. Matt Beaton, former state rep from Shrewsbury, he's going to be the Energy Environmental Affairs Secretary. He's a Republican. Steve Kadish is going to be the Chief of Staff. He's a Democrat. I mean, we're going to be very focused on finding really smart people who have relevant subject matter expertise and real management experience and some idea about what life in the public sector is like. And I'm not going to worry that much about their party affiliation.
I mean, you instantly have to be an expert on all subjects, and I recognize how difficult that is. They ask you about everything, and I'm going to do the same thing.
Know more and more about? How is it you know less and less about more and more? Yes. I
mean, because a lot of these things are sort of things that are looming from the Patrick administration, and some of them are coming up very quickly. I mean, even this thing with Uber and Lyft. Have you ever taken an Uber, by the way, just out of curiosity? So the governor wants to establish some kind of rules and regulations because taxi drivers are feeling, hey, this is really cut into their business, and they don't have to operate by the same standards Lyft and Uber don't. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I do think the governor's decision to create some sort of a legislative structure or framework around this is the right thing to do. And we're obviously going to take a look at what he's proposed and determine if in fact it's enough or if it goes far enough. But I definitely believe the fact that there was no framework was something that needed to be fixed. I mean, I can tell you that, not to dig too back into the memory bank, but when I joined state government in the Weld administration back in 1991 at Health and Human Services, there were no assisted living facilities in Massachusetts. And the reason there weren't any was because we didn't have a legal framework in which you could operate one. So we filed legislation, worked it through the legislature, got it passed, and that basically created the framework for the assisted living industry that grew up around it. I do think when it comes to, ride-sharing programs, and by the way, this isn't going to be the end of them. They're going to be that little device we all have is going to create a lot of opportunities for this sort of thing, and we ought to have some kind of framework in place for that.
By the way, the assisted living facilities, I won't speak for all of them, but I've been in many, and they're fantastic. So on another subject that's kind of looming here, and that is the pardon of Mark Wahlberg. He, of course, was into a lot of trouble. He was a thug as a kid, He beat up a couple of Vietnamese men, took one of their eyes out, chased young black kids through rocks and stones. He wants his record expunged. He says he's not doing it for business purposes, but because he wants to be a role model. Otherwise, why dredge all this up, frankly? How do you feel about it? Well,
we have the good news on that one is we have a process, and he's got to go through it the same way anybody else would. And if that gets resolved by the time Governor Patrick's term ends, then Governor Patrick will be the ultimate arbiter on that. If it doesn't and it goes into our term, we'll deal with it. But my view on every pardon and every case that comes up before the parole board, it's basically a fact-specific exercise, and it has to do with the facts of the original case and what's happened since then.
I don't know if you've been affected at all by the protests in the Swampscott area, but certainly downtown Boston has been deeply affected by the protests over the non-indictments in Ferguson and in the New York case. But there's another case looming that I know you have some personal connections to, and that's the D.J. Henry case. You have some association with Dan Roy Henry, and I know you were at the 12th Street Baptist Church a few weeks ago, I think, right after you were elected, talking about this. I mean, this is a horrible case where he was gunned down in a bar in a suburb of New York City. He was a college student. He was told to stop, and he was in a car, and the cops shot right through the windows. The cop was not indicted there. Allegedly, the Justice Department has been looking into this. We've tried to get answers over the past couple of years ourselves. Can you do anything once in the governor's seat to expedite that?
The answer is I hope so. I know Dan and Angela quite well. I've been to the last several fundraisers they've done for the DJ Dream Fund, which, by the way, is just an extraordinary example of grace and dignity and trying to turn something really terrible into something positive on their part. And I certainly, I can tell you as governor, I will certainly pursue some answers from the Justice Department with respect to that case. And then the larger issue of Ferguson and New York City, what I would say is there are huge trust issues at work here, and they manifest themselves in lots of different issues, some of which have to do with diversity in staffing and hiring, some of which have to do with training, some of which have to do with sort of a lack of public officials serve at the pleasure of the communities that we all live in. And I have this huge opportunity to be governor, for which I'm enormously grateful. You need to embed yourself in the communities that you work in. And I think one of the things I would like to see us do more of, and I've watched Mayor Walsh since these stories broke. I've watched other leaders in the public space, and frankly other community leaders as well, reach out. We're going to do that too. I mean, I spent a lot of time in communities of color during the campaign because I wanted to run for 100% of the vote, and I've been in a bunch of those communities. I've gone back to them since the election, and I am not going to be a stranger. Let's put it that way, and neither will my administration.
Body camera thing on police officers, is that going to make a difference? Is it worth the money?
Well, I think it might, but to me the answer on this one is try it. Let's find some. Let's try some demonstrations and see how it works. I mean, one of the things that sometimes I think trips us up in some of these conversations is we take kind of an all or nothing approach to these kinds of opportunities, when maybe the answer here is, well, let's try it on a limited basis and see if it makes any difference. I mean, I do think there are privacy issues that have to be resolved, not just for police officers, but also for people in the community. But it seems to me that we could certainly try it and see how it goes.
Stan Rosenberg, who you know, of course, because when you were Secretary of Administration and Finance, he was Chairman Ways and Means.
Good for you. By the way, not a lot of people know that.
Oh, well, I go way back, as you recall.
So do I, apparently.
He's been in hot water recently because of some tweets that his partner, who is almost 40 years younger than him, which everybody keeps pointing out, made fun of outgoing President Theresa Murray. First of all, is this an issue that should be detrimental to him getting the job, or is it something that it's a juvenile action and shouldn't affect him?
Well, I'd say a couple of things. First of all, I've also known the Senate President for 20 years. She was going all the way back, she was the House Chair of the Human Service Committee when I was at Health and Human Services in the early 90s, and I always had a great working relationship with her all the way through. So I think it's enormously unfortunate that anybody would sort of engage in that kind of behavior when somebody's moving to the end of their term, and frankly to the end of their career as a public servant. I've known Stan, as you point out, for a very long time. I've always considered him to be a straight-up stand-up guy, and I think this whole thing is unfortunate. But in the end, it's going to be up to the members of the Senate to decide what they think about this. And I'll tell you something, the work that Stan and Mike Moran did on legislative district reconstruction based on the changing populations in Massachusetts was a transparent, open, thoroughly professional job on something that usually always gets politicized. And I think he has a pretty strong record as somebody who wants to do the right thing and bring everybody into the process. And I think that's probably what's carrying him, what carried him into the position he's in now, and probably going to be a big part of, if he does end up being the president, why he gets the job.
All right, and finally, Governor Patrick announced earlier this week that he was going to leave the State House a day earlier, the way Governor Romney did 8 years ago, which is kind of a classy move. Governor Romney took the solo walk down the steps with his wife that night, the night before, so that he could give the governor his own day the next day. You appreciative of that?
Absolutely. I met with the governor the morning. Remember, the election didn't end on Tuesday night. It ended on Wednesday morning. So, okay, so do I.
Didn't end for me either.
Yeah, that's right. So I was invited up to the governor's office that day, had a meeting with him in the afternoon, started the transition process. They've been nothing but professional and courteous and cooperative all the way through, and frankly, that doesn't come as a surprise to me at all.
All right, Charlie Baker. I regret I'm not going to be interviewing you again in this situation. But
me too, Emily.
But I can
I wish you the best.
I can wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Because I don't have to be mean to you
that.
anymore. And not that I was ever mean. All right, Charlie Baker, thanks so much.
Thank you and good luck.
Thanks.
Okay.